Welcome to a gentle journey through time, where mornings began not with a harsh beep, but with soft rhythms of nature and human care. Today we explore why ancient alarm clocks, with their dripping waters and crowing roosters, might have ruined your morning if only you had to wake by them. So settle in, breathe deeply, and let this calm story carry you softly into the past. You wake slowly in the pale blush of morning, when the world is still wrapped in the soft embrace of night's last sighs. The sky, a gentle canvas of shifting hues, moves from deep indigo to the faintest blush of lavender, whispering promises of a new day yet untouched. There is no sudden jolt, no harsh clanging or beeping to shatter this tranquil moment. Instead, the rhythm of dawn moves like a quiet wave, washing gently over the sleepy town, stirring the dreams that have lingered softly in the corners of your mind. Long before the convenience of digital beeps or mechanical chimes, waking up was an experience intertwined with the natural world, a delicate dance with sunlight, the subtle song of birds, and the faint murmur of human life beginning to stir. This was a time when ancient alarm clocks did not exist as we know them, but rather rudimentary attempts to catch the morning light and call the sleepers from their dreams. Imagine, then, the slow passage of hours in a world where your waking was guided not by a shrill sound, but by softer, more organic cues. The subtle shift of air temperature, the gradual brightening of the sky, the scent of dew on the earth, and the distant crow of a rooster, its call echoing like a timeless refrain across the fields. This was the natural symphony that beckoned people to rise, to face the day in harmony with the rhythms of the earth itself. But humans, forever curious and inventive, sought ways to shape time, to hold it, and to bend it to their will. The desire to awaken at a precise moment, whether to greet a visitor, begin a ceremony, or tend to duties before sunrise, planted the seed for the first crude alarm devices. Yet, these ancient inventions were often as unpredictable as the morning breeze, sometimes waking their owners too early, other times failing to rouse them at all. In ancient civilizations such as Egypt, Greece, and China, early attempts at alarm clocks were less about ticking gears and more about clever arrangements of natural elements. The water clock, or clepsydra for example, was a vessel that slowly filled or emptied with water to mark the passage of time. Some designs were even rigged to create sound spells, gongs, or splashing water to awaken sleepers. But these sounds, strange and sometimes startling, lacked the reliability and subtlety that modern clocks offer. Imagine a small dark room in ancient times, where the faint dripping of water fills the silence. Each drop echoes, counting the seconds like a slow, irregular heartbeat. Eventually, the water fills a container just enough to tip over a small mechanism, causing a gong to ring or a series of bells to jingle. For the sleeper, this sound might be jarring, a sudden intrusion in the quiet morning air. Unlike the gentle coaxing of dawn's natural light, these early alarms were abrupt and often unwelcome interruptions. But the unreliability of such devices meant that many still relied on more human forms of waking. In bustling cities or quiet villages, a person known as a knocker-upper might go from door to door, gently tapping on windows with a long stick to rouse those who needed to rise early. This human alarm clock, with their soft knocks and kind patience, added a layer of intimacy and care to the act of waking, a far cry from the impersonal beeps of modern technology. In the quiet of the early morning, before clocks demanded our attention with their mechanical voices, waking was a slower art. It was shaped by nature's rhythms, by the soft rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of a stream, the warmth creeping slowly over your skin as sunlight filtered through curtains woven by skilled hands. There was time to linger between sleep and wakefulness, a liminal space where dreams faded gently, like mist melting in the early sun. Consider how different your mornings would be if these ancient alarms were your only heralds of the day. No snooze buttons to press, no repetitive buzzing to dull your senses. Instead, the world would unfold softly, like a carefully crafted poem whispered just for you. Yet the unpredictability of these devices meant that mornings could be ruined. Waking too soon, startled awake by an awkward splash or clang, or worse, sleeping through the call entirely. The very idea of a reliable alarm clock as we know it today is a relatively modern miracle, product of centuries of invention and refinement. The ancient devices, while marvels of their time, were clumsy and often frustrating.
Ow.
They remind us, though, of a time when waking was a sensory experience woven closely with the natural world, dominated by the harsh, intrusive sounds that now define many of our mornings. As you lie there in the quiet glow of dawn, feeling the slow rise and fall of your breath, it is a comfort to know that once upon a time waking was a gentler affair, one that allowed the day to enter your life softly without hurry or harshness. The ancient alarm clocks, with their dripping water, tipping mechanisms, and jangling bells, were imperfect attempts to master time, reminders of a more patient world, where mornings began, not with a shock, but with a sigh. In the stillness of the ancient world, where shadows lengthened and contracted with the slow passage of the sun, the first clever minds began to shape time into something tangible, something they could measure, hold, and even use to wake themselves from sleep. The water clock, known as the clepsydra, was one of the earliest instruments crafted for this purpose. It was simple in design, yet profound in its attempt to capture the invisible flow of moments and turn it into a measured stream. Picture a quiet chamber where a shallow bowl or jar slowly fills or empties with water, a liquid heartbeat marking the steady march of time. As the water level rises or falls, it moves a small float, or triggers a mechanism designed to signal the passing of a set amount of hours. This wasn't just an instrument for measurement, it was a symbol, a fragile tether binding the waking world to the fluid, elusive nature of time itself. But time measured by dripping water is not the kind of precision we expect from our modern clocks. The rate at which water flows can vary, influenced by temperature, impurities, or even the tiniest crack in the vessel. Such unpredictability could lead to early mornings jolted awake by sudden, unexpected noises, or late risings lost in the gentle embrace of sleep. In some versions of these water clocks, the slow filling of a container would eventually tip over a small vessel, releasing a cascade of water onto a gong or bell, creating a resonant sound meant to rouse the sleeper. Imagine hearing the sudden splash and metallic ring echo through a silent room, a raw and startling call from the depths of time itself. This primitive alarm, though innovative, was harsh and unyielding, a blunt instrument rather than a gentle invitation to wakefulness. Yet, there is something beautiful in the simplicity of this design. The slow drip of water, so constant and steady, reminds us of time's patient flow, a rhythm that continues even when the world sleeps. It teaches us that time is not a sharp command, but a soft presence, moving, changing, inevitable. Beyond the mechanics, the water clock was entwined with human lives in subtle ways. In places like ancient Babylon and Egypt, where the cycles of the sun and river dictated daily rhythms, water clocks offered a new way to organize the day. Priests might use them to mark hours of prayer, farmers to time irrigation, rulers to schedule audiences. Yet, their use as alarms remain crude and imperfect, their sounds a rough echo of nature's more subtle cues. Consider how different your morning would feel if you were awakened not by a shrill beep, but by the gentle, uneven drip of water. Would you find comfort in the rhythm, or frustration in its unpredictability? Would the sudden splash and clang of the bell feel like a rude awakening, or a call to greet the day's possibilities? In this way, ancient alarm clocks remind us of the fragility of our control over time and routine. Despite all our inventions and devices, waking remains an intimate moment, shaped by our senses, our environment, and our relationship with the world around us. The water clock is a metaphor for this delicate balance, a beautiful, perfect tool that asks us to listen closely to the passage of moments, rather than demanding obedience. So, as you lie beneath the soft blanket of dawn, think of the water clock, quietly dripping, a gentle metronome counting the seconds until the sun spills fully into the sky. It is a reminder that time is not always sharp or urgent, but often slow and steady, a soft pulse that moves us gently into waking life. Long before the tick of a clock or the drip of water, there was the natural alarm that no machine could match. The rooster's call at dawn. Its cry, sharp and insistent, cut through the early morning mist, like a beacon calling the world to stir. This was the alarm clock of the earth, a wild, living herald that no human hand could fully command, yet one whose presence shaped the waking rhythms of countless civilizations. Imagine the stillness of a village just before daybreak. wrapped in the soft shadows of trees and the gentle chill of night air. Somewhere nearby, a rooster stretches its wings and lets loose a call. A loud, resonant crow that pierces the quiet and seems to echo endlessly through the empty fields and narrow lanes. It is not just a sound, but a signal, a punctuation mark in the unfolding story of the day. This cry was more than just a noise. It was a marker of time as ancient as the sun itself. For centuries, the rooster's call announced the shift from darkness to light, the end of rest and the beginning of labor, the moment when the world awoke and began its endless rhythmic dance. Farmers rose to tend their fields, bakers prepared their ovens, and families gathered the first warmth of fire, all stirred by this natural alarm, steady and true. Yet relying on a rooster to wake you has its own poetry and pitfalls. Timing is never exact, depending on the seasons, weather, and even the temperament of the bird. Sometimes the crow comes too early, breaking the delicate balance of sleep. Other times it arrives late, leaving the sleeper to rise in haste, or miss the earliest light altogether. The rooster's call is a wild thing, part of nature's unpredictable rhythm, not a human-made convenience. There is also a strange intimacy in waking to such a sound. It reminds you that you are part of a living world, connected to creatures beyond yourself. The rooster's cry is a voice that stretches through history, a call that shaped the rhythms of countless mornings before the rise of bells, gongs, or mechanical alarms. In many cultures, the rooster symbolized more than just time. It was a guardian, a symbol of vigilance and hope, its morning call, a promise of renewal. The crowing rooster appears in myths and legends, perched on rooftops to scare away evil spirits, heralding the arrival of light and good fortune. To wake to its cry was to awaken not just your body, but your spirit, a daily reminder that night must give way to day. But for all its charm and symbolism, the rooster's alarm was imperfect. It was a voice beyond human control, subject to the whims of nature and the bird's own internal clocks. For those who needed precise waking, perhaps to prepare for a journey, attend a ritual, or greet a visitor, this wild alarm was both a comfort and a challenge. As you rest beneath your covers, feeling the first rays of light brushing softly against your skin, think of the rooster's call, a call that has awakened generations before you through centuries of dawns and dusks. It is a sound that carries the wildness of the world, the unpredictability of life itself, and the gentle insistence that it is time to rise to begin anew. The ancient alarm clocks may have been imperfect, their mechanisms crude and their sounds jarring. But the rooster's call remains one of the oldest and most enduring alarms of all, a wild song woven deeply into the fabric of human life. It is a reminder that waking is not just a moment in time, but a connection to the cycles of nature and the steady living pulse of the earth. As dawn stretched her fingers gently over the ancient world, curious minds in places like Greece began to dream not only of measuring time, but of shaping it, creating devices that could speak to the sleeper and call them from slumber with a touch of human ingenuity. In this quiet dawn of invention, the first mechanical alarm clocks were born, marvels of gears and weights that sought to tame time's elusive flow. Imagine a workshop bathed in the soft amber glow of morning light, filled with the steady ticking of intricate mechanisms and the faint scent of oil and aged wood. Here artisans and philosophers worked together, blending art and science to bring forth devices that marked the hours not just by the sun's journey, but by the deliberate, measured movement of crafted parts. One of the most fascinating creations was the water clock with an alarm feature, a step beyond the simple clepsydra slow drip. These devices were carefully designed to produce a sound when a certain amount of water had flowed, using small levers or floats to release a bell's chime or the rattle of a mechanism. Unlike the natural rooster's call or the irregular drip of earlier water clocks, these alarms aimed for predictability and reliability, announcing the hour with purpose. The Greek inventor Ctesibius, working in the 3rd century BCE, refined these clocks, adding complex automata that could even strike bells or drums, filling the air with a gentle but unmistakable summons. Imagine waking to the rhythmic toll of metal striking metal, sound crafted by human hands to break the quiet with dignity and grace. Yet despite their beauty and ingenuity, These ancient mechanical alarms were not without their quirks. The precision of their timing depended on many delicate factors: the exact weight of water, the smoothness of gears, the balance of levers. And a tiny flaw could cause the alarm to sound too early or too late. Sometimes the bells might ring in the dead of night, startling sleepers from a dream with a harsh clang that felt out of place in the gentle hours before dawn. Still, these early attempts to engineer time reflect a profound human desire to wrest control from nature's unpredictable rhythms and impose a structure of waking and working that fits the needs of society. The mechanical alarm was a tool of order and discipline, a way to synchronize lives and duties with a regular beat, no longer subject solely to the whims of sun and bird. In the quiet moments before you awaken, imagine the careful design behind these clocks. The smooth turning of wheels, the precise drip of water, the gentle strike of a bell, all orchestrated to usher you from sleep into the world with measured kindness. There is a poetry in this union of art and function, a whisper of the human mind's ability to shape time itself. Yet the mechanical alarms of ancient Greece also remind us of the fragile balance between invention and nature. No matter how finely crafted, these devices could not fully capture the softness of dawn or the gentle unfolding of consciousness. They could wake the body, but not the soul. So as you lie beneath your covers, feeling the slow stretch of morning light across your skin, think of these ancient wonders, mechanical clocks that sought to master time and summon sleepers with the chime of crafted metal. They are echoes of a world where human ingenuity first reached toward the intangible flow of moments, marking the beginning of a long journey toward the precise, relentless alarms we know today. Long before the rise of mechanical marvels, ancient Egyptians stood under the vast, unyielding sky, watching the sun trace its arc from dawn to dusk. Their lives, deeply entwined with the sun's journey, gave birth to one of the earliest forms of timekeeping, the sundial. Though it cast no sound, made no noise, the sundial was a quiet, silent sentinel marking the passage of time with the steady progress of shadows. Imagine standing in a sunlit courtyard, the stone pillar of the sundial casting a thin, dark line that moves imperceptibly across the smooth surface beneath. As morning advances, the shadow shifts gently, like a slow dance choreographed by the sun itself. This shadow was the ancient alarm clock's softer cousin, a visual whisper rather than a vocal shout, a reminder that time was flowing and the day was unfolding. The sundial offered no sharp alarms, no bells or clangs to rouse the sleeper. Instead, it called to those awake, those who sought to read the day's rhythm from the earth's own movements. It was a tool for those who lived in harmony with the sun, rising and resting with its glow, aware of time's slow, silent march. In a culture where temples and daily rituals were timed to the sun's passage, the sundial became a sacred instrument. It measured not just hours, but moments of spiritual significance: when the sun reached its zenith, when offerings should be made, when prayers were due. Time was not just mechanical, but deeply woven into the fabric of life, marked by the shadow's silent advance. For a sleeper, however, the sundial was no alarm clock. It could not rouse you from dreams or interrupt the softness of night. It was patient, waiting silently for the sun to climb high enough to cast its telling shadow. In the quiet darkness before dawn, it was powerless, a mute witness to the stillness. This silent nature speaks to a different way of waking, a gentle awakening not forced by sound but invited by light and shadow. By the gradual shift of the world around you, it was an awakening that respected the night's stillness, coaxing you softly from sleep rather than pulling you harshly into wakefulness. Imagine waking in an ancient Egyptian home, the first hints of sun spilling through a woven reed curtain, the cool stone beneath you slowly warming as light creeps across the floor. There is no sudden jolt, no mechanical clang, just the quiet assurance that the day has begun and you may rise when the sun's shadow stretches far enough to mark its time. The sundial reminds us that not all alarms are meant to shock or startle. Some alarms are invitations, a gentle, patient call to wakefulness that honors the natural world and the rhythms of the body. It teaches us that time need not be a tyrant, but a companion, moving at its own pace and allowing us to move with it, softly and willingly. In today's hurried world, where alarm clocks scream and buzz, it is worth remembering the sundial's quiet wisdom. There is beauty in silence, in shadows, and in the slow, steady passing of hours, measured not by noise but by light. It offers a moment to pause, to breathe, and to greet the morning with calmness and grace. So, as you lie in bed, wrapped in the lingering warmth of sleep, think of the sundial-lit silent shadow sliding slowly across stone, a patient keeper of time and gentle guide to waking. It is a reminder that sometimes the softest alarms are the most profound, and that waking need not be a battle, but a peaceful journey into the day. In a time before clocks buzzed and phones chimed, waking up was often a delicate negotiation between night's lingering embrace and the demands of the day. In crowded cities where work began before sunrise and factories called with relentless rhythm, a unique figure emerged, the knocker-upper. This human alarm clock, armed with a long stick or a soft tap, carried the task of waking sleepers with patience, care, and a gentle persistence that no machine could quite replicate. Imagine a quiet street in an early morning, when the world still wears a cloak of deep blue shadows and the first hints of light peek shyly over rooftops. The knocker-upper moves softly along narrow alleys, their footsteps barely stirring the cool air. With practiced hands, they tap on window panes. Gentle, rhythmic knocks that ripple through the silence like a quiet wave, nudging the city awake one home at a time. There is something profoundly human about this form of waking. Unlike the harsh clanging of bells or the cold beep of a machine, the knocker-upper's tap carries a warmth, a knowing touch, a recognition that waking is not just about opening eyes, but about crossing from one world into another. This quiet ritual was a lifeline for many, especially those who had no clocks of their own or whose work demanded waking at odd hours. Yet, the job required more than just persistence. It demanded empathy. The knocker-upper had to learn the rhythm of each household, the light sleeper from the heavy, the ones who needed multiple taps, the ones who stirred with a single gentle knock. They were, in a sense, caretakers of mornings, tasked with the intimate duty of guiding others from sleep to wakefulness. Picture a window slowly opening, a sleepy face peering through the glass. The muffled greeting of morning exchanged before the curtain closes again. The city, still quiet but awakening, breathes with the soft percussion of these knocks. It is a melody of waking, unique to the time before alarm clocks became common in every home. The knocker-upper's method was not without its flaws. Sometimes a knock might be missed. Sometimes sleep held fast, and the call came too late. On cold mornings, the gentle taps might be hurried and brief, while on rainy days, the knocker-upper's rounds were made with wet clothes and chilled fingers. Despite the hardships, this human alarm was more personal, more connected to the rhythms of life than any mechanical device could be. In the stillness before your own awakening, imagine the slow cadence of those knocks, the tender insistence that it is time to leave the world of dreams behind, to greet the dawn with open eyes. There is a poetry in this ritual, a reminder that waking is not just a mechanical event, but a deeply human moment, marked by connection and care. Today, with alarm clocks set on smartphones and digital assistants ready to sound at a moment's notice, it is easy to forget this softer way of waking. Yet the knocker-upper's legacy lingers, a whisper in the history of mornings, reminding us that sometimes the gentlest alarm is a human hand reaching out through the quiet darkness to say, "It is time. It is tur." Beneath your covers, feel the echoes of those quiet taps, a tender rhythm woven through the fabric of history, a human heartbeat that once stirred entire cities awake. It is a call to rise, but also a call to remember that waking is not just about time, but about care. In many ancient towns and villages, the awakening was not left to a single rooster's cry or the steady drip of water. Instead, the sound of bells filled the air, clear, resonant tones that echoed through narrow streets and across wide fields, a call that stretched far beyond any one home. These bells were voices of the community, ringing out to summon workers, signal prayers, or mark the arrival of a new day. Imagine standing outside a stone church or a tall watchtower, the bell's deep toll rolling slowly like waves across the still morning air. It is a sound both commanding and comforting, a reminder that the world is turning, that life must move forward with the rising sun. The bell's voice carries with it centuries of tradition, its tones layered with meaning and history. In medieval Europe, for example, the church bell was more than a simple alarm clock. It was a heartbeat of the town, calling the faithful to prayer at dawn, noon, and dusk, signaling the start of the workday or warning of dangers. Its ringing wove a shared rhythm through daily life, a communal guide to time's passage in an era when few owned personal clocks. The bell's sound, clear and resonant, had the power to stir the deepest corners of the mind and body. It could awaken even the heaviest sleeper, cutting through dreams with a deliberate chime that demanded attention. But like the rooster's call, was wild and unpredictable, its timing dependent on human hands pulling ropes. On the will of the bell ringer, on the rhythms of the town itself, there is something profoundly poetic about waking two bells, a sound that is both musical and functional. At once an alarm and a song, it connects individuals to the wider community, reminding you that you are part of something greater, a shared story told through the rising and falling of ringing metal. Yet the bells could also be intrusive. Their ringing was often loud and insistent, a piercing sound that did not always respect the fragile edge between sleep and wakefulness. For some, the sudden toll of a bell might feel like a harsh intrusion, a rude awakening that tore through the delicate fabric of early morning. Still, the bell remains an enduring symbol of time's passage, a voice that calls us from rest, marks beginnings and endings, that shapes our days in sound and silence. Even today, the echo of bells in old cathedrals and clock towers reminds us of a world before personal alarms, when waking was a communal act and time was measured in shared moments and ringing voices. As you drift gently toward wakefulness, imagine the slow, sonorous toll of a bell weaving through the quiet air, a steady call from the past that shaped mornings long before the hum of machines or the beep of devices. It is a sound that carries history, tradition, and the deep human need to mark time together. In the soft morning light, listen for the bell's song, a melody of awakening, of gathering, of life beginning anew. It is both alarm and lullaby, harsh and gentle, wild and comforting. And it reminds us that waking is never just a moment, but a soundscape, a rhythm that ties us across time and space to all those who have heard it before. In the tapestry of ancient timekeeping, sandglass holds a special place. A simple, elegant device whose steady flow of grains captures time as a gentle, visible movement rather than a harsh sound or sudden call. It is an alarm of a different kind, quiet, patient, a reminder that time slips away softly, grain by grain, moment by moment. Imagine holding a delicate hourglass in your hands, the warm glass smooth against your skin. As you turn it, a cascade of fine sand begins to fall, pouring from the upper chamber into the lower, shimmering in the soft light like tiny sparks of fleeting moments. Each grain is a whisper of passing time, invisible yet tangible, slipping steadily through the narrow waist of the glass. Unlike the abrupt clang of a bell or the startling crow of a rooster, the sandglass does not demand your immediate attention. It moves with a calm inevitability, offering a slow, rhythmic measure of passing moments that encourages reflection rather than sudden action. It is a quiet companion to the stillness of night or the gradual awakening of dawn. For centuries, sailors, scholars, and monks relied on the sandglass to mark intervals during prayer, navigation, or study. It was a tool that taught patience and mindfulness, inviting those who watched it to observe time not as an enemy to conquer, but as a gentle flow to honor. Yet, its very nature made it less suited for waking the sleeper, for it did not ring or shout. It simply slipped away silently, waiting for the user to notice. In a world before loud alarms, the sandglass was a quiet teacher, urging one to respect the softness of time's passing. Its steady flow spoke of the inevitability of moments slipping away, yet it offered no harsh interruption, no sudden jolt to wrench one from dreams. It was a device that understood the value of calm and measured rhythms, echoing the gentle pulse of breath and heartbeat. Imagine lying in bed, the first tendrils of morning light filtering through curtains. The hourglass turned at some appointed hour, its sands falling steadily. There is no clatter, no clangingly the soft invisible passage of time, marking the slow approach of waking. The sandglass offers a different kind of alarm, a silent nudge rather than a sharp call, a reminder that time is moving and it is almost time to rise. This slow, unassuming device connects us to a more patient experience of time, where waking is not a battle but a transition. The sandglass asks us to watch, to wait, to be present as moments slip quietly by, preparing us for the gentle emergence into the day. Though it never became the alarm clock that sounds the morning, the sandglass remains a symbol of time's graceful flow. It's a reminder that not every moment demands urgency, that sometimes the quiet passage of time is the most profound call of all. So as you rest beneath soft blankets, feeling the day slowly stretch awake, imagine the sandglass quietly turning, its sands falling like a whispered poem about time, patience, and gentle beginnings. It is a call not to rush, but to rise softly with calm and care into the unfolding morning. Before the rise of precise alarm clocks, and before the hum of machines disturbed the night, there were those whose duty it was to guard the hours between dusk and dawn, the firekeepers, the watchmen, the night sentinels. These guardians watched over sleeping towns, their eyes alert to flickering flames and restless shadows, their senses tuned to the quiet shifts of night's fragile moments. Imagine a solitary figure pacing beneath the canopy of stars, a torch in hand, its flame flickering softly in the cool night air. The fire's warm glow casts dancing shadows on the walls of stone houses, while the keeper's steady footsteps echo faintly on cobblestone streets. Their presence is a living alarm clock, a human sentinel charged with the sacred task of guarding both fire and sleep. The firekeeper's role was not only to tend the hearths that warmed homes, but also to ensure the safety of the community during the vulnerable hours of night. In those days, without the hum of electricity or the security of modern locks, watchfulness was essential. The firekeeper's footsteps, their calls, and sometimes the ringing of a small bell served as a rhythm to the night, alerting those who needed waking for emergencies or the start of early tasks. This human watch was a living alarm. But unlike the sharp clangs of a bell or the mechanical beeps of modern clocks, it was soft and unpredictable. It was a presence rather than a sound, a rhythm of footsteps and whispered calls blending into the night's breath. Sometimes the firekeeper's call would break the silence abruptly, startling the sleepers. Other times it was a gentle murmur, a reminder that the world still moved, even in darkness. Picture yourself in a small, dimly lit room. The scent of smoke faint in the air, the fire's glow casting a gentle warmth around you. Somewhere outside, the watchman's footsteps pass slowly, then fade, a living thread connecting night to day. This was the alarm of the ages, human, fallible, yet profoundly caring. In a way, the firekeeper was the ultimate ancient alarm clock, tuned not to minutes or seconds, but to the flow of life and the needs of the people. Their vigilance was a reminder that waking was not just about time, but about care, protection, and community. As you rest and drift toward wakefulness, imagine the quiet footsteps of the night watcher outside your window. Hear the soft crackle of fire and the distant murmur of a voice calling gently through the darkness. It is a call woven from the fabric of human connection, a reminder that even in sleep, you are not alone. The firekeeper's watch invites us to remember that waking is more than a mechanical event. It is a moment steeped in history, tradition, and the tender care of those who once guarded our nights. It is a living alarm, soft and human, guiding us from rest into the light of day. As morning stretches its gentle fingers through your window, as light spills softly onto your skin, it is worth pausing to reflect on how far we have come and yet how much we have lost in the art of waking. The ancient alarms, with their dripping water, crowing roosters, ringing bells, and human taps, all held a softness, a rhythm that modern life often forgets. Imagine waking not to a sudden, shrill beep that jolts your heart and blurs your mind, but to a series of gentle sounds or quiet signals, carefully timed by nature or human care. The slow drip of water, the call of a bird, the touch of a kindly knocker-upper, all inviting you gradually from sleep's embrace, rather than tearing you away. These ancient methods remind us that waking is not merely a task, but a transition, a delicate passage between worlds. From the quiet depth of dreams into the clarity of day, there was a time when mornings began with patience, with awareness, the soft unfolding that honored the body's own rhythms. The cacophony of modern alarms, designed to fight sleep and demand immediate action, often leaves us startled and disoriented. Yet the ancient alarm clocks, with their flaws and unpredictability, teach us something profound, that waking well requires gentleness, presence, and connection to nature, to community, and to ourselves. Think of the sundial's silent shadow moving slowly across stone, marking time without noise. The sandglass's quiet cascade of grains slipping steadily downward. How the firekeeper's watchful footsteps blending into the night's stillness. These are not just relics, but lessons, urging us to reclaim a softer relationship with time. Perhaps in this fast-paced world, we can carry forward some of that ancient wisdom. To wake slowly, to allow the day to enter gently, and to greet morning with calmness rather than rush. To remember that waking is not an interruption, but a beginning, a time to reconnect with the breath, the light, the quiet pulse of the earth. As you rise from sleep tonight or the next morning, let the echoes of ancient alarms whisper in your mind. Let the slow rhythms of water, shadow, and flame remind you to awaken with kindness. To listen closely not only for the call to rise, but for the stillness that surrounds it. In this way, the past offers us a gift, a path back to waking as an act of peace, a gentle unfolding that prepares us for the day ahead. And in that gift lies a quiet power, a chance to meet each morning with a heart open and a spirit calm. So as the world brightens slowly around you, take a deep breath, feel the soft light, and step gently into your day. The ancient alarm clocks may have been imperfect, but their lessons are clear. Wake slowly, live kindly, and honor the quiet rhythm of time itself. Thank you for waking slowly with me today, letting the echoes of ancient alarms remind us of a gentler time. Until next time, may your mornings be soft, your days peaceful, and your nights restful.